Azazel, the fallen angel, the edgy boy, the sneezy boy, or whatever else you want to call him, he's a character that was introduced in Rebirth. He's unlocked by making 3 deals with the devils in one run. He starts with Flight, a short-ranged brimstone, and 3 demon hearts. His tainted version still has 3 demon hearts, but now he's flightless and has a long and skinny brimstone, along with an adorable sneeze. But have you ever wondered how he broke one of his horns and his wings? Well, today we're going to dive into the biblical lore of Azazel. We'll primarily be looking at Leviticus and the book of Enoch to answer any questions you might have about Azazel. I'm going to explain everything including his unlocks, and we're going to explain what brimstone is and why he starts with it. There might be some stuff I missed, so if there is, just let me know in the comments below. And subscribe while you're at it, because I intend to break down every single biblical reference in Isaac that I can. Now, let's talk about Azazel. So far, Azazel has been the hardest character to research by far. He's a very controversial and ambiguous religious character. There are many different interpretations of Azazel. The name Azazel was only mentioned 3 times in the Hebrew Bible, all in Leviticus, which is the 3rd book of the Bible. Some say Azazel is a location, others say they're a goat, and others say he's a demon. So which is it? All 3 meanings are derived from the same story in Leviticus. The story takes place on Yom Kippur, aka the Day of Atonement. Yom Kippur is a Judaism holy day. The goal of this day is to cleanse everyone from their sins. In this story, the ritual was performed by the high priest Aaron, the older brother of Moses. The ritual was performed by the offering of 2 goats. One goat was for the Lord, and the other was for Azazel. The goat that was for God was killed. In regards to the other goat, the Bible reads, "But the goat on which the lot fell for Azazel shall be presented alive before the Lord to make atonement over it, that it may be sent away into the wilderness to Azazel." In other words, Aaron confessed the sins of the people onto the goat. The goat was then sent out to the wilderness for Azazel, carrying the sins of the people with it. So that's actually all there is concerning Azazel in the Bible, but we're not even close to done yet. Now let's talk about all the different ways people interpret Azazel. Some of the debate is in the meaning of the name Azazel. In the King James Version of the Bible, Azazel is translated to scapegoat. Upon doing my research, I often find this labeled as a mistranslation. The real meaning behind the name is unclear, but the meaning is most likely something along the lines of strength of God. Another argument against Azazel referring to the goat is that it just doesn't make sense in the context of the story, which I agree with. The other 2 interpretations are that Azazel is a place or a demon. The place where the goat was being sent to was described as a rugged or desolate place, and many people think that this place is called Azazel. People also argue that Azazel can't be a demon because it is forbidden to sacrifice to demons, but people refute this, saying it's never mentioned that the goat was to be killed as a sacrifice in the book. So many people think that Azazel is a demon. To explain why in more depth, we're going to have to take a look at the book of Enoch. The book of Enoch is a Hebrew book filled with religious text. The author is unknown, but many people give credit to Enoch, the grandfather of Noah. This book tells stories that explains the origins of demons, explains why some angels fell from heaven, and more. However, not everyone considers this book canon. Regardless, the book of Enoch is basically a side story to the Bible. We're going to focus on a story involving the Watchers. The Watchers are angels that closely watched over mankind to make sure everything was okay. At one point, they started marrying and having children with women that they found attractive, which was not allowed. These women gave birth to giants. Don't ask me how it works. They also revealed secrets of heaven among some other stuff that was forbidden knowledge to the people. They were warned to stop by their leader, but they did not. The giants ended up attacking mankind, animals, and each other. When all of this was explained in the book, Azazel's name was not mentioned at all, but shortly after this he was introduced. In my research, a lot of people called Azazel a leader of the fallen angels, but not everyone agrees that he was a leader, including myself, since it's not directly mentioned anywhere. In chapter 8, it explains that Azazel taught regular people how to fight, along with how to make weapons. It also reads, "And there arose much godlessness, and they committed fornication, and they were led astray, and became corrupt in all their ways." This story also talks about how angels taught the people stuff about plants and astrology, but Azazel was the only only one to teach anyone about the art of war. In chapter 9, the 4 archangels, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel, who were the highest ranking angels, saw all the destruction that was going on and were quick to blame it all on Azazel. The blame also included all the secrets of heaven that were shared. God believes that it's all Azazel's fault. God then says to Raphael, "Bind Azazel hand and foot and cast him into the darkness, and make an opening in the desert and cast him therein. And place upon him rough and jagged rocks, and cover him with darkness, and let him abide there forever, and cover his face that he may not see the light. On the day of great judgment he shall be cast into the fire. The whole earth has been corrupted through the works that were taught by Azazel, to ascribe him all sin." The place that Aaron sent the goat during Yom Kippur is described as the same way that God described the place that Azazel should be sent to. Later on, Enoch himself essentially told Azazel that his sins will never be forgiven. Skipping all the way to chapter 53, Enoch sees a valley burning with fire. He asks an angel that he refers to as the angel of peace what was going on. The angel replies, "They are prepared for the host of Azazel, that they may be delivered over and adjudged to the lowest condemnation, and that their angels may be overwhelmed with hurled stones, as the Lord of Spirits has commanded." After this, the story gets a bit complicated if it wasn't already, so I'll explain this all as simply as possible. We now skip all the way to the 3rd book of Enoch. Enoch talks about how during the Great Flood, God brought him into heaven, and he saw Azazel there. Azazel protested Enoch getting into heaven and becoming an angel, but God silences Azazel and makes Enoch a ruler over Azazel. Enoch then eventually casts out Azazel, and Azazel is not mentioned again. Obviously, there's a lot unsaid here. In the 1st book, it is said that Azazel is to be sent out into a valley of fire, but then we skip to the 3rd book and now he's in heaven? So take that for what you will, but it's very, very vague. It's also worth mentioning Azazel's involvement in the apocalypse of Abraham. This is kind of complicated as well, and it leads to a lot of theories at the end, so I'm just gonna speed through this one. We're going to jump around a lot in this story, by the way. Abraham, who is Isaac's father by the way, is hanging out with an angel, and the angel tells him to make a sacrifice to God. A bird then shows up and tells Abraham to stop the sacrifice, and explains that the angel that told him to make the sacrifice is bad. Abraham is like, "What the fuck?" And the angel explains that the bird is Azazel. The angel then alludes to the story of Azazel in the book of Enoch, the story I just went over, and that's all there is for this first part, but people consider the apocalypse of Abraham more canon in the book of Enoch, so this kind of confirms Azazel as canon? I'm sorry, this is just very complicated. We then skip forward to Abraham, who was watching the fall of Adam and Eve. I'm just going to assume you know the basics of this story for the sake of this video. Abraham sees the serpent who looks more like a demon. He asks God who the serpent is, and God replies saying, "That's Azazel." And that's all the information is there. Now we're going to skip ahead again. So later on, God shows Abraham a vision of Azazel kissing someone who God calls the Messiah. And here is where we start to enter the territory of theories. The Messiah is not mentioned by name here, but the Messiah typically refers to Jesus. And this scene of Azazel kissing the Messiah mirrors Luke 22:48, making people think that Azazel is actually Judas, and Judas is someone who portrayed Jesus. Azazel is mentioned one last time in the final chapters of the apocalypse of Abraham. God says to Abraham, "And those who followed after the idols and after their murders will rot in the womb of the evil one, the belly of Azazel, and they will be burned by the fire of Azazel's tongue." This makes it seem as if Azazel and God are in direct oppositions with each other. And many people call Azazel Satan or the embodiment of evil, but this is just so vague that we'd be jumping down the rabbit hole of theories at this point. And there's a bunch of different religious texts that makes people believe that Azazel is the devil, but that's a whole can of worms I don't intend to dive into right now. I'm sure you guys understand who Azazel is at this point. And believe me when I say all of this was complicated enough to research. Now let's talk about how Azazel was translated into Isaac. I feel like his appearance is very straightforward. He's a demon, and his tainted version leans more into the fallen angel aspect, especially with how the text reads, "broken wings." His 3 black hearts at the start makes perfect sense because black hearts are commonly referred to as demon hearts. He's unlocked by getting 3 deals with the devil in the same run, and I don't even think I need to explain why that is fitting. But what is brimstone, and why does Azazel start with it? Brimstone is an older name for sulfur, which is really just a chemical element. The word brimstone means burning stone. Fire and brimstone is essentially God's wrath. In the Hebrew Bible, the phrase fire and brimstone is used in context of divine punishment and purification. In the book of Revelation, Satan is cast into a lake of fire burning with brimstone. And it's fitting that Azazel starts with brimstone, not only because it's theorized that Azazel is Satan, but it is said that Azazel will be burnt in a valley of fire. It also helps that in the Apocalypse of Abraham, God says, "They will be burned by the fire of Azazel's tongue." I'm not sure if that's to mean literal fire or metaphorical fire, but either way, it fits perfect. Now let's talk about all of Azazel's and Tainted Azazel's unlocks. Rapid fire. Alright, so the nails effect is in reference to Castlevania, but the item itself is in reference to the nails used to nail Jesus to the cross. Begotten basically means someone's offspring. I think this is just some non-specific demon baby. I never saw any talk about Azazel having a kid. I think this is just pronounced demon, but either way, it's a Greek term for spirit. Okay, so we could go down a rabbit hole to explain Abaddon, but in short, it's a place of destruction. In the Hebrew Bible, it's used to reference a bottomless pit, often appearing alongside the Sheol, which means realm of the dead. Lilith is unlocked, but we'll get into her lore in a future video. I'm not sure what Maw of the Void means. Here's what Ma means in the Bible. I'm not going to pretend I fully understand this, so you can just read this if you want to. Sucky Baby is a co-op baby inspired by the item Succubus. And Succubus are female demons that seduce men in their dreams. The Satanic Bible, Demon Baby, Batwing, Black Baby, Lil Abaddon are probably all just what they sound like. I'm not sure what Dark Prince's crown or Devil's crown is referring to. Maybe it's as straightforward as it sounds, but I'm not sure. Benighted means overtaken by darkness, and this is the achievement you get to unlock Tainted Azazel. Speaking of Tainted Azazel, let's go over their unlocks now. Azazel's Stump, Azazel's Rage, Soul of Azazel, the Reverse Devil card, and Hell Game are probably all as straightforward as they sound. Just like Devil's Crown and Dark Prince's Crown, I'm not sure the exact meaning behind Wicked Crown. And Hemoptysis is the spitting of blood that originates in the lungs or the bronchial tubes. What a good way to end the video. Like I said earlier, I intend to break down every Isaac character's biblical origins, so subscribe so you don't miss that. Thank you all for watching. Please leave a like if you enjoyed. Feel free to check out my other videos on the biblical origins of Isaac characters. And that's all I got. Thank you for watching. I hope you all have a happy Tuesday.